did the ascent. As we talked about before, but I broke my leg last year and I'd had some complications. And so I wasn't like really training at 100% for a lot of this. And so I hadn't climbed almost at all going in and nothing like this race. And so the race starts out, it's probably like a mile or two uphill on the road. And so I was chilling there, like maybe 7:30 pace, which was like maybe a 6 flat effort going uphill at altitude. And then you hop on the trail, and the first 2 miles of this trail is some of like the steepest climbs, like just grade wise. And I had like a small mental freak out at the beginning because I hadn't climbed like that. And like I could feel like my Achilles stretching, like my back hurt. I was like redlining heart rate. And it took me a minute to like relax. And I had to stop a couple times and like let people go around me because I think I was like a little maybe farther forward than I needed to be, like climbing wise. And so I let like the group I was with and then another group go and like slid back. And I found a group that was like perfect for me and just slid in. And like, when you find that flow of the train that's moving up, and then it was awesome. And I regrouped and stopped freaking out. But incredibly hard, so freaking beautiful. I mean, as you remember from Flag, but like this time of year, the aspens are changing yellow and the views were insane. I literally like, because I wasn't like, competing. I wasn't like in the top 10 or anything. And so I guess I was competing, but not like at the front of the race. Um, but I just was able to like really take it all in. And so there were so many times I was just like, wow, this is nuts. It was so beautiful. The trails are incredible. Yeah, really tough. Um, really good challenge. And I love gonna do stuff like that because it makes it so much easier to coach. Like we have a bunch of takeaways. So I have came across a lot of good things that like I was really chewing on and thinking about, to talk with people about, and just kind of solidifies some things I already knew and some things that I hadn't thought about in a while.
Well, what were some of those takeaways? You have me on the edge of my seat now.
Dude,
You can't just tease that and not go right into it.
yeah, I always say this about trail running, and I love to pick on them, but they're so performative and theatrical. And watching just really like looking around in the race and watching people, it was like so much more evident. Like for one, this race screams up 8,000 feet. You're going from 6,000 to 14,000. Like it's takes many hours to do. The gun goes off. So many people just take off sprinting. Like there's like old people, and I'm like, just thought that was a little goofy. Um, and then like the real theatrical part is there's a lot of very nice runnable fast sections, and then there's like big climbs, there's technical climbs. And I'm not that's great. I'm not the like I'm not the greatest technical runner at all. And so if stuff was really, really scrambly and rocky, I would hike a little bit. And there are so many people who would like charge up these really steep or maybe there's like big steps that are like 3 feet long. And there's people who would charge and run up that and like hit these scrambly sections. And then we'd get to like these beautiful, flowy, fast trails that are just a slight uphill. And they're running like barely jogging, like 9-10 minute pace or something, but just stuff like that where it's like you're trying to show you're a trail guy and you're attacking this rock, but then it's like when it's time to jog, you're just like, I don't know, it's not as cool. So that stuff always makes me laugh.
I mean, the performative aspect of trail running and ultra running can just be highlighted in the term power hiking, which is
Yeah,
just the fancy term
just
for
walking.
walking. It's just walking. So that
We're
to
like
me, that's the whole thing kind of summed up in the
100%.
phrase. Yeah.
It's kind of like I always say that about electrolytes. Electrolytes are just minerals that
Yeah.
yeah, it's just magnesium. Like in every other context, it's a mineral, but now that you're a runner, it's an electrolyte.
Yeah.
Um, or like at aid stations, people are like, get in the water, and it's like, bro, it's gonna take you 5 like, this whether you fill this water bottle up in 7 seconds or 9 seconds, this isn't the race, you know? Um, I just always find that stuff funny, and I was just, like, overly relaxed, so I feel like I was noticing stuff like that more, but I just always find that stuff really fun, but so, I know I was making fun of people, but while I was doing that, it really reminded me of, like, some of the runs I've had with, like, really good trail runners, and I really always think of Jared Hazen in this way, who's a, really talented guy, incredible climber, and every time I've ever done a climb with him, I've always been blown away by how incredibly smooth he is, like, through the whole thing, and it's the number one thing I notice with, like, maybe newer runners is that especially on a race like this, like I said, there's, like, steeper sections you might hike for a second or you might have to slow down, and then there's flatter stuff and, like, you have to change your stride, your speed, your effort. When whenever I've run with him, his effort is so consistent, and yes, sometimes he might hike for a second or he'll go into a really slow jog, like barely moving on some steep stuff, but he's so steady the whole time. And like watching other people, like I said, it's like they do these big spurts and then they're really tired, so they have to walk for long periods. And then when they start running again, it's really hard running. And um, on trails and on uphill stuff, it's one of like the toughest skills to really master of like what I always call it finding first gear of like, can you keep moving without the like start and stops, the huge effort spikes. And so I was thinking a lot about that. Like, yeah, you don't have to charge this, like just be consistent and move. And then on a flatter section, that same effort might be a little bit faster, but you don't have to like, yeah. Yeah. I mean, you ever think about that?
I think about it all the time when climbing because my tendency is I'm a pretty good just natural climber. Like I
Hmm.
can I can run well uphill, but
Yeah.
I have a tendency to like grind myself a little bit
Yeah.
too hard. So just
Yeah.
like constantly either always run and refuse to hike,
Yes.
which kind of comes from my road runner background,
Yes.
and not really watching the effort in this build up for my next race, Kodiak. I've been really, really cognizant, especially I'll just put my watch on heart rate. Anytime we creep over like 145, 150, we're slowing down, we're hiking, we're just keeping, especially early on. If I'm starting off with a big climb, like I just don't want to be, redlining that and grinding that climb too hard. So I've had to really focus on finding that like Jared Hazen flow state, really find a consistent effort across the whole thing without, going too hard up it. So I can definitely feel where you're coming from there and how important that is, because I've been that idiot who can go too hard. Problem is I have a big enough engine and I can just go too hard and then keep going too hard until I just totally crash. you
Yes.
know.
Well,
So I've had
that's
to
what
moderate
happened to
that.
me. That's what happened to me like the first 2 miles. I was just grinding, and like I wasn't technically moving that fast, but I was probably at like an 8 out of 10.
Yeah.
And I like it took me a while to like, dude, you gotta drop one, you gotta get down into that 6 out of 10 so that you can push later on. Um and like there are a couple like flatter runnable sections, and so I crushed on those, and so I don't need to like destroy myself on the like really really steep stuff, and so that was really fun. There's a long one in the middle, and then when you get above tree line, there's like a pretty long few zigzags that are like really runnable, and I probably passed. And it's like up at like 13,000 feet, but on like the second to last mile, I probably passed like 25 people on
Oh, that's
one of these
awesome.
like flatter sections because nobody could run up there, and I was like, I'm ready to scoot here.
Well, especially at the end of
Um,
the race, it's like, well, I'm not really. What am I saving this for now? I'm not going back
yeah,
down. So let's empty it out a little bit and see what happens. So that's
yeah.
fun.
I think that's also the benefit for guys like us that like doesn't really matter where it is. If it's a flat section, we're gonna be able to run. Like
Yeah.
even if it's 13,000 feet or even if we're tired, like our us being destroyed on a flag section is still better than most people. And so that was a good saving grace. Dude, at fueling, I thought I crushed. I I always keep things pretty simple. I was just doing a gel every 30 minutes and I just bounced around a lot. I did a never second, Huma, an untapped, and then I probably another never second, never Huma, but kind of just cycle through. And I had a soft flask, 500 milliliters, that I just kept in my hand almost the whole time. And I started with like 2 scoops of scratch, and then they had scratch at a bunch of aid stations. I didn't even use all of them, and anytime I was pretty low, I would fill it up. And I think most of the time we know, like when you're getting those from the big thing, it's usually a little diluted.
Yeah.
It's maybe a scoop, if that. So yeah, I haven't filled out my own personal race fueling sheet, but I will, because that's something I always tell my athletes to do. But felt good. Like I really stayed on it and had no problems. Um, yeah, and pretty much I think I did about as good as I could have done. I just wasn't climbing fit. I'm not crazy fit right now in general, but definitely not to climb like that. And so for the fitness I was in, it was like pretty, I mean, it was a perfect day. Course was awesome, fueled well, ran it smart, and so it's pretty awesome.
What was your total time, just out of curiosity?
Just over 3 hours. Just
Okay,
like
that's awesome.
I think 14-minute pace. I think
And
it was like
go ahead.
50th out of like 2,000.
That's pretty good for, yeah, for not having specific fitness. How are you feeling coming off of it? Like calf soreness, anything that's lingering, or you feel pretty good?
Dude, the craziest thing is like it was kind of the perfect storm of it's all uphill. And so zero downhill. And I wasn't really fit enough to like beat the crap out of myself. And so honestly felt completely fine.
That's awesome.
It was
That's
kind of like being on
fantastic.
an Ultra G for like 3 hours. Like it, yeah.
That's cool. Any other like big takeaways from this, like in terms of things that you would pass on to your athletes or things that you would do differently, maybe for another attempt at a race like this?
I mean, I coached my athletes way better than I coached myself for this. Like we did a lot more specific climbing and preparing that. And like I always tell people, there's like climbing fitness, but there's also like getting your body ready to be in those angles that it like, it averages 11-12% grade. That's just a weird angle for your body to be in, for your calves to be stretched like that, the way your hips compensate. My back hurt. And so it hurt so bad because I hadn't done that. And so that is something we work on, but always something to think about. It's like, it's not just, are you fit enough to climb, but like, is your body ready to be like hunched over for me 3 hours, for some people 7 hours, and so um that's always something to practice. My fueling went great, but like, yeah, because I'm pretty dialed with that. But yeah, I mean, fueling's huge. And then yeah, like that climbing thing we were talking about, of finding that consistency and not grinding yourself into a pulp. Like I said, one thing that's really helped me is going with other people and watching. And like I said, I needed to drop back and find that person who had that rhythm and flow that really worked well for me. And so, trying to watch and get to run with people and watch how they do stuff, like where do they hike, where do they run, and then trying those things out for yourself, of like, what's it like to hike this section, what's it like to really slow jog, what's it like if I'm pushing a little bit on the run, and seeing what that gets you. Because especially in the trail world, there's so much of working smarter, not harder all the time. And the really good elite guys are talented, but they also know like how to use their efforts in the right area. And it's insane how much of a difference that makes. And so playing around with those things is so big. Um and then the last thing is, I just really want to go back. It was such a cool event, and it'll be so cool to be in shape for and be really strong, and because they have a really good elite field. um
It's always been a good elite field. That race always gets good people to come out and do it.
Yeah, Joe Gray's always there. Seth Demore was second, but there's tons of other folks that are flying up that thing. And yeah, it's just such a fun way to like beat the crap out of yourself, which we love to do. So I loved getting to work with them. Incredible organization, a lot of good folks down there. So 10 out of 10, can't beat it.
Hell yeah, love that.